Nigeria's former aviation minister, Hadi Sirika, launched the country's latest national carrier, Nigeria, in what many termed a hurried move. Since the launch, discrepancies in the flagship flight's history, age and ownership are emerging. This has sparked conversations about Nigeria's aviation sector, with experts saying the country needs to prioritize maintenance of airport infrastructure and safety standards of existing aircraft. In this story, Just Nigeria's Zina Bala examines issues plaguing the aviation sector and the way forward.
The Nigerian aviation industry is key to the country's economic growth. The National Bureau of Statistics says the sector contributed at least 117.3 billion naira in the first half of 2022. With Nigeria's ambition to become Africa's aviation hub by 2050, the key question is whether the country, with a population of over 200 million, is making the necessary progress to achieve this lofty goal.
We are so lacking in foundational data when it comes to aviation in Nigeria that any policy that you will come up with is not built on any solid foundations.
These concerns are even more telling with the recent controversy around the launch of the country's latest national carrier, Nigeria Air. Many Nigerians were expectant when the former Minister of Aviation, Hadi Sirika, announced the imminent launch of Nigeria Air. But since its unveiling, a wave of skepticism has swept through the public regarding the proposed airline's legitimacy.
We're forced to do the first step, which was basically say that they want to apply for an AOC, and these are the post holders, and they submit the CVs of the post holders. Then the second step they just failed to do completely, and it was which is the formal application that you want to apply for an AOC, and then you've got to send in your application form with supporting documents, etc. They failed to do it entirely, and the timing of it was such that it was clear that they had no intention of doing it.
To set up an airline in Nigeria, the applicant must first obtain an airline operating license.
The process by which that is done is to provide a business case to show what you intend to do running an airline, and that is presented to the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority. The NCAA would in turn review your application and the business case to sort of establish the viability or otherwise, and where it is viable and all the other requirements for the procurement of the air transport license is granted, or rather met, then of course the license will be issued.
There is fierce competition in the airline business, and the challenges can be daunting.
ICAO and IATA have identified that the taxes in this region are way too high and they're stifling the growth of the industry.
According to the International Air Transport Association, air travel is the safest form of transport. However, when accidents happen, they can be quite deadly, and Nigeria has had its fair share over the years. Isaac Balami is an aeronautical engineer in Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital. He tells me the aviation industry is thorough when it comes to safety.
It has been established globally that nobody wants to own an air transport license. Like in our own case, we have to be vetted through the Ministry of Aviation. The DG of SSS and the entire state security department have to vet you to give you the license in trust.
Balami adds that maintenance of airplanes is exhaustive and capital intensive.
There's no double standard. Aviation is aviation anywhere in the world, and whatsoever you're doing, you have your license number as an aircraft engineer. For every job you do, you sign, you put date and time and your license number. 10 years later, you know that should anything go wrong with that aircraft, you can be held responsible for that.
According to the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority, over 16 million passengers passed through Nigeria's airports in 2022. This begs the question of whether Nigeria's airport facilities are adequate to handle the passenger traffic.
We've got 4 new airports which have been constructed, terminals which have been constructed, which are at different stages of commissioning and operating. There are some issues with the Lagos Terminal 2, which is the new terminal, which they commissioned, but not all the airlines, the international airlines, are operating from there. By any standard, the design of the airport looks great. From a functional perspective, it's substandard.
They are not straightforward. And everybody in this country now, everybody wants bribe.
In the recent time, my experience has been very, very, very bad.
I think sometimes they are good, sometimes they are bad.
Just Nigeria reached out to at least 2 airline operators for their side of the story, but they declined to comment. When former President Muhammadu Buhari assumed office in 2015, he placed a premium on the aviation sector, particularly the national carrier, making it a critical component of the Aviation Roadmap. The Aviation Roadmap laid out a path for the development of comprehensive aviation infrastructure, some of which is visible to airport users, while some are only visible to technical experts, aircraft and other technical users. The comprehensive roadmap projected that the implementation will create an estimated 72,300 aviation jobs within 3 years. But does Nigeria need a national carrier to boost the performance of its aviation sector?
We need flag carriers, privately owned airlines that can operate based on the bilateral agreements Nigeria has signed with all other countries, and to the extent that the government backs the private carriers, they can achieve the same purpose like you'll achieve with a national carrier.
Although the previous government claimed that most projects listed in the Aviation Roadmap had passed the 90% mark, experts say there are still significant milestones that need to be reached.
When it comes to policy, you need to base your policy on solid foundations in the first place. Then you need to have a vision of who you want to be, and then have a plan of how you're going to get there.
The government needs to encourage the DG of the civil aviation by giving him and his team enough manpower, not just manpower, but experience and qualified manpowers.
For now, controversy over Nigerian air rages on and may not end anytime soon. But experts say President Tinubu's administration needs to focus on formulating and implementing policies that will strengthen and put Nigeria's aviation industry on the world map. Zainab Bala, Gist Nigeria.